بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. To proceed. So today inshallah we will have station 86, that's al-Bast, the chapter on al-Bast or expansion. And in fiqh we will finish what we started last time. We were talking about al-Wali, and part of the discussion of al-Wali or the guardian or guardianship is the discussion of al-Kafa'a, compatibility in marriage. We will try to finish that, and we will inshallah also talk about unmarriageable women, or you could also say unmarriageable men. It's al-Muharramat, which are forbidden to be married. That is not only al-Maharim, which are the unmarriageable kin, but that's al-Muharramat in general, forbidden to be married, including al-Maharim, unmarriageable kin. So let's start with Maqam al-Bast, or Manāzil al-Bast, or expansion. The Shaykh rahimahullah, Imam al-Harawi, in his book Manaazil As-Saa'ireen, said under the chapter of al-Bast, قال الله عز وجل يذرأكم فيه. Allah the Almighty said, He multiplies you thereby. And this is in Surah Ash-Shura, and this is about the multiplication or the expansion of provisions and offspring. And the Shaykh usually uses subtleties and hints, gestures. So this is about the multiplication or expansion of offspring and provisions. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also expands us spiritually, not only physically, or not only in the sense of progeny and provisions. Then the Shaykh said, البسط أن يرسل شواهد العبد في مدارج العلم ويسبل على باطنه رداء الاختصاص وهم أهل التلبيس وإنما بسطوا في ميدان البسط لأحد ثلاث معان لكل معنى طائفة. So البسط أن يرسل شواهد العبد في مدارج العلم. Expansion is when he accords the exterior of the servant with the indications of knowledge. ويسبل على باطنه رداء الاختصاص, and dresses their interior with the garment of devotion. وهم أهل التلبيس, these are the people of disguise. وإنما بسطوا في ميدان البسط لأحد ثلاث معان. They have been expanded in the realm of expansion for one of three purposes. لكل معنى طائفة, for each purpose a group is dedicated. The Shaykh is talking about al-Bast, and al-Bast is the opposite of al-Qabd, and al-Qabd was constriction or contraction. Constriction is what we use. It means distress and discomfort and so on. And it means also aversion, like maqbud an ad-dunya, and you have to allow you to have this aversion to ad-dunya, or towards ad-dunya. Al-Bast is expansion, and we said last time that in the slang they use these words by sort of trickle-down effect. They have picked up those words, and they say maqboodan mabsoot or ma'boodan mabsoot. And the mabsoot would mean expanded. When they use it in the slang, they mean what? Happy. I'm happy, I'm mabsoot. It means expanded. It means that Allah had expanded your chest. Sharaha sadrak. He opened up your chest. He expanded your chest. He gave you that sort of feeling of ease and comfort, forbearance, tolerance, agreeability. It's a lot of meanings that we will discuss. So يرسل شواهد العبد في مدارج العلم when he accords the exterior of the servant with the indication of knowledge, which is important, that compliance with indications of knowledge, compliance with the requirements of knowledge, and dresses their interior with the garment of devotion, because as we said so many times, that al-ilm and al-hal are not mutually inclusive, but at the same time, they are certainly not mutually exclusive. In fact, they are symbiotic, synergistic. They corroborate each other. They invoke, al-ilm invokes al-hal and al-hal invokes al-ilm. They summon each other. That's what the Shaykh is saying here, that he has ilm and hal, and he's compliant with the indications of knowledge, but his interior is that of devotion. وهم أهل التلبيس, these are the people of disguise, and the Shaykh always mentions the word disguise to mean that these people are, and we can always have like a demystified reading, and if you have a good reading of a text, just don't critique the text, just use the good reading. We can always have a demystified reading of this text. And this guys, the good reading of this, al-Talbis, the people of disguise, is that they are just like the rest of the people in customs, habits, but they are very unlike them in hal, in their interior state, in their etiquettes, in their manners. They are very unlike them. So they could confuse the people a little bit because they look like them, they act like them, they're not pretentious, they're real, they're genuine. They're not putting on an act, they are just acting normal. And at the same time, they are very different because their hal is different, and their hal will always manifest on their hal, their inner state will always manifest on their manners, their etiquettes. Like when they're really aggravated, they can really control themselves. That's not like the rest of the people, because the rest of the people, they snap. They are courteous as long as courtesy is working for them, or courtesy is held. If it is an act, then they're not. They are trying to put on this act for ulterior motives, for other purposes. But these other people, they are kind and courteous naturally, internally. They are forbearing and tolerant internally. So you can't basically, although certainly they're not infallible, and they may also sort of slip. But generally speaking, they are not only doing this for inferior motives, but it's an internal state or condition that they're in. Anyway, they are like the rest of the people. They eat like them, they dress like them, they act like them. They're not pretentious, but they are internally different, and that would show on their manners and their suluk in general. And that's why they're called the people of disguise or the people of talbis, because they confuse the people about their state. وإنما بسطوا في ميدان البسط لأحد ثلاث معان. They have been expanded in the realm of expansion for one of three purposes. لكل معنى طائفة, for each purpose a group is dedicated. فطائفة بسطت رحمة للخلق يباسطونهم ويلابسونهم فيستضيئون بنورهم والحقائق مجموعة والسرائر مصونة. فطائفة بسطت رحمة للخلق. A group has been expanded as a mercy for the creation. And you will find that the Shaykh always uses creation to basically not limit that these matters to Muslims or even to humans. It is the creation. So you have you have these manners of kindness, graciousness, etc., even courtesy with the creation. Like in Abwab al-Fiqh, in the chapters of Fiqh and Tahara, you can't use part of an animal to clean yourself because that's disrespectful. So you can't have a cow next to you when you are relieving yourself and just you clean yourself with the tail of the cow because that is disrespectful to the cow. So the use of the word creation is not just incidental, it is intended. He means to use it. فَطَائِفَةٌ بُسِطَتْ رَحْمَةً لِلْخَلْقِ. A group has been expanded as a mercy for the creation. يُبَاسِطُونَهُمْ وَيُلَابِسُونَهُمْ. They are pleasant towards them. That's mubasata. They exchange niceties, they are pleasant. Mubasata, they are sort of easygoing. They befriend and are easily befriended. يَأْلَفُونَ وَيُؤْلَفُونَ. يُبَاسِطُونَهُمْ وَيُلَابِسُونَهُم فَيَسْتَضِيئُونَ بِنُورِهِمْ. So that they may, al-khalq, the creation, they may find illumination in their light, the light of those distinguished ones. وَالْحَقَائِقُ مَجْمُوعَةً. While their realities are collected. Al-haqa'iq majmu'a, realities are collected or together. وَالسَّرَائِرُ مَصُونَةً. And the inner secrets are protected. Al-haqa'iq majmu'a, meaning that their mixing with the people did not cause them dispersion or distraction. They're still collected. They're still focused. They're not distracted. Their mixing with the people is still part of the plan. They fit this into basically the long-term plan, seeking God. So it never distracts them. And they never meander in the valleys of dispersion. أودية التفرق. They are still on their very straight path, and they're reaching out to the people and they're trying to be kind to the people without following the people, meandering behind them into the valleys of dispersion. Doesn't happen to them. They're still collected, they're still together, their himma is collected, their intentions, their iradat, resolve, volitions are collected. Ultimate goal is still in focus. This particular group that has been expanded as a mercy for the creation, and they are pleasant and they mix with them. Prophet ﷺ, there is a hadith, there is actually a genre of a hadith about this. One hadith in Tabari that's corroborated by many other hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says in this hadith, إِنَّ أَحَبَّكُمْ إِلَيَّ أَحَاسِنُكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا الْمُوَطَّئُونَ أَكْنَافًا الَّذِينَ يَأْلَفُونَ وَيُؤْلَفُونَ وإن أبغضكم إلي المشاؤون بين الناس بالنميمة المفرقون بين الأحبة الملتمسون للبراء العنت. So, إن أحبكم إلي, the most beloved to me among you are أحاسنكم أخلاقا, the best in manners, الموطئون أكنافا. موطئون أكنافا would mean humble and easygoing. Would mean humble and easygoing. الموطئون أكنافا. الذين يألفون ويؤلفون, those who befriend and are easily befriended. وَإِنَّ أَبْغَضَكُمْ إِلَيَّ, and the most hated of you to me among you, or of you to me, are al-masha'una bayna al-nasi bin-namima, those who spread gossips between people, al-mufarriquna bayna al-ahibba, those who seek to separate between the ones in love, the ones who love each other. Not necessarily that type of love, but all kinds of love, not. So al-mufarriquna bayna al-ahibba, the ones who seek to separate between people who love each other, wal-multamisuna lil-bura'a il-anat, and the ones who seek to befool the innocent in hardship. They're just, these are two groups of people that are quite distinct from each other. And some people can straddle the two groups. You do want to be in the first group all the time, but some people can sort of move around. And sometimes they're like this, sometimes they're like that. And there are people who are dedicated to the second group, and those would be the worst, for sure. But it is important that we talked about المؤمن الذي يخالط الناس ويصبر على أذاهم خير من المؤمن الذي لا يخالط الناس ولا يصبر على أذاهم in the previous station. The believer who mixes with people and tolerates or puts up with their harm is better than the believer that does not mix with the people and does not put up with their harm. So anyway, but these concepts are extremely important. To mubasata, to be easygoing, to be humble, to be genuine, to be real with the people. These are extremely important concepts. And part of this also is agreeability. Al-bast, expansion of the chest, and sharh al-sadr. Part of this is also agreeability, and there is like a whole adab called adab al-muwafaqa. Adab al-muwafaqa, which is the etiquette of agreeability, is extremely important because you cannot really be rahma lil-khalq, you cannot befriend and be easily befriended unless you are agreeable. And agreeable means what? That you seek to agree with the people, you really deep inside wish that you can agree with everyone on everything. Certainly you can't. But that is your intent. Your intent is to agree. Like if you hear a khutbah, for instance, and you dislike something about it, you could go to the khatib and tell them, I agree with everything you said, but I have a question about this, or I seek clarification, or I have a comment, versus someone who comes and says, I disagree. You should start by saying, I agree with everything you said, but I would like to seek clarification about this particular or these particular issues, or I may have some thoughts to share, comment or something. So that's, anyway, the concept of agreeability is a very important concept. It's part of this general etiquette and of mubasata and khulta, good khulta, and rahmat al-khalq. The Shaykh said, so yubasitunahum wa yalabisunahum, they are pleasant towards them, exchange niceties with them, and mix with them so that they may find illumination in their light. So that the regular people, the masses, the public, they find illumination in their light. والحقائق مجموعة والسرائر مصونة. Realities are collected and the inner secrets are protected. So those people, once that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have expanded their chest, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made them a mercy for His creation, those are the joy of this life. Those are the joy of this life. They have immense resources, psychological resources. They have immense emotional resources. And not everybody, but certainly people have different rankings. Even among this group, people have different rankings, but these people have immense resources. Someone could get like a phone call in the morning, or from their doctor, and they get told that you have stage 4 cancer, and they would be intent on cheering up everybody, even after they hear the news they are concerned about how am I going to say this to my kids without causing them distress, for instance, or how am I going to cheer up my spouse when it's not cheer up necessarily, but give them comfort, console them, etc. They have immense resources, immense psychological resources, that they are the joy of this life, honestly. So once you come into their presence, you feel joyful and you feel hopeful. Their energy field. People like to use those terms. So once you walk into their energy field, you feel good, you feel joyful, you feel hopeful, optimistic, positive, and sometimes you feel energized immediately when you walk into their energy field. And other people, you walk into their energy field and just the roof collapses on your head. You feel distressed, you feel uncomfortable, you feel like sort of pessimistic, etc. So you have to choose for yourself where you want to be, what you want to be, what you want to make out of yourself. These are two different groups of people. If you want to be a mercy for the creation, then you know what you need to do. Certainly the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim had given us the best examples, role models, and in every adab, in every type of suluk. And I think the peak of this, is the story of the very pinnacle or peak of this is the story of Sulaym. And you know the story of Sulaym. Most of you know the story of Sulaym with Abu Talha. When he was traveling and their son died. And he arrived shortly thereafter. So he asked her about his son, and she said, and this is reported by Bukhari and Muslim, by the way. Anas reported this, radiallahu anhum jami'an. He asked her about his son, and she said, "Hu askan ma yakun." He is the sort of the calmest he's ever been, or he could ever be. And this can be sort of understood in different ways. She meant that he died, and she wanted him to understand that he is well, because he asked about his son because he was sick when he left. Came back, asked about him. She said to him, he's the calmest he could have been, or he could ever be. And then, so she presented food to him, like dinner, and he ate, and then they had conjugal relations and so on. And then she told him afterwards. And certainly he was upset. He went to the Prophet ﷺ to complain about Sulaym and what she did to him. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for them, Barakallahu lakuma fi laylatikuma. May Allah bless that night. And the reporters say that their son, that she conceived, and that son, Abdullah, then had 9 children. All of them were memorizers of the Quran. All of them are hafizah. So, but certainly, what could be more painful than the loss of a child, particularly for a mother, even more than a father. But the fact that she understood how, disconcerting, like how distressful it could be, just coming back from a long trip, being extremely tired, and so on, and just hearing the news, traveling across the desert in their times is different from, even now traveling is still a problem, but traveling through the desert in their time was like perilous and extremely tiring and exhausting. So she allowed him some time to sort of rest and so on, and then she told them of the news. So that, I think that this is a good example of what those people do. Certainly not all of us can do this. Not all of us can be Sulaim. I think this is beyond this. You could try, but at least you could try as much as you can. Probably will not get there, but you can try. Then the Shaykh said, وَطَائِفَةٌ بُسِطَتْ لِقُوَّةِ مُعَايَنَتِهِمْ, or in some manuscripts, لِقُوَّةِ مَعَانِيهِمْ. وطائفة بسطت لقوة معاينتهم وتصميم مناظرهم لأنهم طائفة لا تخالج الشواهد مشهودهم ولا تضرب رياح الرسوم موجودهم فهم مبسوطون في قبضة القبض. A group has been expanded for the strength of their beholding and the steadiness of their visions, for their insights are not scrambled by indicators or signs, and the winds of the forms do not attack their procurements, so they are expanded in the grip of qabd or constriction. So وَطَائِفَةٌ بُسِطَتْ لِقُوَّةِ مُعَايَنَتِهِمْ وَتَصْمِيمِ مَنَاظِرِهِمْ. A group has been expanded for the strength of their beholding and the steadiness of their visions. They are focused on the destination. They're focused on, they see the lights of the city, of destination, and their beholding, that's their beholding of the realities beyond the forms, and most importantly, their beholding of the real, al-Haq subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's their beholding of the eyes of their heart, of the real. And if you are beholding the real with the eyes of your heart, could you be anything other than expanded, other than mabsoot? If you are beholding the real al-Haq subhanahu wa ta'ala with the eyes of your heart, you'll always have this inshirah al-sadr, you'll always have this comfort, you'll always have this confidence, stability, and you will have those immense psychological reserves. So, لقوة معاينتهم وتصميم مناظرهم. تصميم مناظرهم means the steadiness of their visions. For their insights لا تخالج لأنهم طائفة لا تخالج الشواهد مشهودهم. For their insights, that is المشهود, are not scrambled by indicators. That's the shawahid. Because the shawahid are the signposts. They lead you to the door. You leave them in the front yard. You don't walk into His presence with them. You don't need them anymore. Right? But we never put down the shawahid. The shawahid are important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established those signs onto Him, around us, in us, around us, to lead us to Him. But when you ride your mount to the door of the king, do you walk into His presence with your mount, with your mule, your donkey, your horse, or you just leave them in the front yard? Once you have reached the door and you walk in, you just leave your mount in the front yard, and that's what he means by this. Inside, in His presence, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the shawahid are irrelevant, of no use. Which means what? It means this evidentialist approach to faith is then outweighed, replaced by the naturalist approach. You don't need evidence to connect with Him. You don't need evidence to believe in Him. You don't need evidence to connect with Him. You don't need science. You are in His hadra, in His presence. So your shuhud, your beholding of Him is not dependent, is not contingent on al-shawahid, the indications, the indicators, the signposts. You don't need them anymore. You've left them in the front yard. Okay. وَلَا تَضْرِبُ رِيَاحُ الرُّسُومِ مَوْجُودَهُمْ. وَلَا تَضْرِبْ رِيَاحُ الرُّسُومِ مَوْجُودَهُمْ. And the winds of the forms are images. It is basically phenomena and forms. Contingent beings and phenomena, contingent beings and transient phenomena. These are all forms. لا تضرب رياح الرسوم موجودهم, and the winds of the forms do not attack their procurements. Their procurements, that's موجود, the findings, the faith that you find, the inner states that you reach, and the faith that you find in your heart. Those are your finds, your procurements, the spiritual procurements, al-Waridat, the spiritual imports. Riyah al-Rusum means what? The winds of the images, our forms. And the forms are what? Those things, the transient phenomena and contingent beings. They're called forms because they hide the meanings behind them, the purpose, the tellus, the purpose, the tellus behind them. And they can cause distraction and confoundment for the people who are focused on the forms. Like you could keep on studying, the elements of life: nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, right? Aren't those the four elements? And then you study, these are the elements of living creatures. Certainly they're not the elements of life. They consider them to be the elements of life. We consider them to be the elements of living bodies, but not life itself. But then you keep on sort of studying these things and how did they come about, or you study the universe and you keep on saying, well, hydrogen, when there was an explosion in the stars, extreme temperature and gravitational sort of force created helium of hydrogen, and then created. But all of this, and you're unable to see beyond this. Who did any of this? Who did all of this? You're obstructed. So sometimes people, the smartest people, the smartest physicists or biologists or so on, they keep on following all of those things, the contingent beings, transient phenomena, and they are obstructed from the tellus and from the first cause and the final cause, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, but also for the regular people, for the average people, they are distracted by the mundane routine of their daily lives and their work and their career and their different pursuits. They are distracted by all of this. These are the rusum for them. They are distracted by those forms and from a focus on what should have been their ultimate goal or pursuit. But those people that we are talking about now, لا تضرب رياح الرسوم موجودهم. The winds of the forms do not attack their procurements. They do adjust, they do adapt to different conditions because at different times, different things are demanded of you by the Divine Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But in all of their variant conditions, their goal is the same and their focus is unfragmented. فهم مبسوطون في قبضة القبض. So they are expanded in the grip of qabd, in the grip of constriction. Which means what? Qabd is when you are constricted from the dunya. You have this aversion to the dunya. You are constricted from the dunya. Constricted towards what? Towards Allah. Allah does not want to share you with the dunya, does not want to share you with the people of the dunya, so He constricts you. He gives you this internal discomfort towards the dunya, aversion, that's qabd, maqbood to Him, from the dunya. And we're talking about the very opposite now. We're talking about the station of al-Bast. You are expanded to be a mercy for the creation. But He's telling you here, and this is extremely important, that you can be in both stations, be a resident of both stations simultaneously. You could straddle the two stations. These people of Bast have not lost any of the benefits of qabd, have not lost any of the meanings of qabd. They are still maqbood in their bast. They are still maqbood in their bast, which means that they are, when they are mabsoot, they do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, it is about their focus. Their focus is not fragmented. Their focus is all on the object of their worship, which is their Lord, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَهُمْ مَبْسُوطُونَ فِي قَبْضَةِ الْقَبْضِ. They are expanded in the grip of qabd. You can straddle stations that are seemingly conflicting. Do you remember what the Prophet ﷺ did when Ibrahim died, and he wept, and so Ibn al-Qayyim said that the station of the Prophet ﷺ is higher than the station of anyone who would have not wept, like Abdullah ibn Umar, for instance, who laughed or showed pleasure when his son died, to show acceptance. Because Abdullah ibn Umar could not manage to straddle the two stations simultaneously, that of compassion and that of acceptance. But the Prophet was seamlessly, effortlessly. To weep does not detract from your acceptance, does not take away from your acceptance. It shows your compassion without taking away from your acceptance. And he said, وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يُرْضِي رَبَّنَا وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يَرْضَى رَبُّنَا. We don't say anything other than what is pleasing to our Lord. So acceptance and compassion. So to be maqbood and mabsoot simultaneously is very possible for the seekers of the path, and it is actually a sign of their establishment in these stations. You're not established in these stations until you are able to combine between them. Sometimes we go through ahwal, conditions that make us move from one station to one station. حتى تتمم هذه المنازل وتصححها, or تصححها وتتممها, and so that you fulfill and complete and perfect these stations. Allah moves you. And Allah moves you from one station to one station, not only so that you could fulfill the stations, but to see that your devotion is not dependent on a particular station or a particular state. That's why Ibn Ata'illah Secondary rahimahullah ta'ala said, قبضك حتى لا يتركك في البسط وبسطك حتى لا يتركك في القبض أو كما قال. And then he said, what means that he took you out of both of them so that he does not leave you for anyone apart from him, or he constricted you so that he does not leave you in expansion, and he expanded you so that he does not leave you in constriction. وَأَخْرَجَكَ مِنْهُمَا, or something like this, and he took you out of the two stations so that he does not leave you with anyone but him, so that he would basically purify you completely from any dependence on any station. It is not about the stations, it is complete devotion. It is complete devotion to him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whether you are in a station of qabd, you are a station of bast, you are his. So when you are in a station of qabd, you are not dependent on the station to be upright and to be devoted. If he expanded you and if he caused you to be mabsoot, you're still watchful, you're still his. And then if he constricts you, that does not hurt your relationship with him at all. You're still his. And then if he takes you out of both stations, and that is in maqam al-fana, to the Shaykh would be in maqam al-fana, which is self-annihilation, where you have transcended the stations per se, because you're gone, you've vanished, sort of metaphorically. Then you are still his. You are his in qabd, you are his in bast, and you're his beyond the stations. Okay, so then the Shaykh said, وَطَائِفَةٌ بُسِطَتْ أَعْلَامًا عَلَى الطَّرِيقِ وَأَئِمَّةً لِلْهُدَى وَمَصَابِيحَ لِلسَّالِكِينَ. Another group has been expanded as flags on the path, imams of guidance and beacons for the travelers. They are here not for themselves. They are here, Allah is using them as beacons to guide to Him. Because they have, and he usually talks in the last station, he talks about the people who are in the phase of fana, and we did talk about Sunni fana before enough that we don't need to repeat it. But these people are not here for themselves because they have reached fana. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps them for the benefit of His ibad, or the rest of His servants. So that was maqam al-bast, that was the station of bast, or the station of expansion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yashrah sudurana wa yarbit ala qulubina, and make us of the people of bast and qabd, and make us beyond this of His people that are devoted to Him, whether they are in qabd or in bast. قل قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.